Good evening, Chair. Calls to order public hearing for Bill 24-007, Comprehensive Zoning Review Process. Tonight, Council, we have Mr. Richardson from the administration with us, and also Mr. Grimm, Director of Planning and Zoning. Mr. Grimm, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Council President Vincenti and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the bill before you tonight, which is to initiate the comprehensive zoning cycle for 2024. It'll wind up being 2024, 2025. And this bill is really simple in its form in that what it does is it takes and suspends piecemeal rezoning. I won't go into a deep dive on piecemeal rezoning, but I'm sure we've all heard about that. That is a process by which in between comprehensive zoning cycles, a citizen, a property owner may ask for their property to be rezoned. So part of this bill is to suspend that during comprehensive zoning because we don't want two different processes overlapping each other. And also it extends the prohibition on piecemeal rezoning requests for some time after comp zoning as well, which is standard, and we've always done that with each comprehensive zoning cycle. It also acknowledges that we will start accepting applications on June 1st, 2024. We'll have applications out and available to the public the month before. And just briefly, I'll go over the process itself. I know there's some new council members that have not been through a comprehensive zoning cycle. So starting in 1988, that was our first true comprehensive rezoning, and we've started, and we're supposed to go every 8 years since that initial cycle, and that's what the code requires. The code requires that every 8 years we initiate a comprehensive zoning cycle. Sometimes we've done it earlier, and this time we're doing it a little bit earlier than we normally would in that 8-year cycle. One of the things I did want to bring up is the fact that we are not doing a master plan update prior to a comprehensive zoning. I know that's been a hot topic. A lot of people have asked me about that and the reasons why. And there are many reasons why we aren't doing the master plan update, and I could literally, I think, spend an hour discussing that. But one of the main reasons that we're not doing an update to the master plan is that this time the General Assembly in Annapolis is passing a significant, or considering a significant amount of legislation that I anticipate will get passed that has significant ramifications on local land use, not just in Harford County, but all throughout the state. There is a lot of land use power usurping by the state of Maryland that really upends our zoning code, our master plans, and that goes for all jurisdictions throughout the state. So in my opinion, right now, it's good to take a pause to see what is going to come out of the state and what may come out of the state in the next couple of years to really see how that's going to affect local land use and local master plans. A master plan takes 2 to 3 years, in my opinion, at this time. And certainly we've done it a little bit quicker than that in the past. But given where Harford County is at in its maturity in the development envelope and throughout the county, with the lack of available developable land left, we are turning into a different county as far as the maturity from a county that's growing to a county that is realizing the maturity of its development envelope, and we're not making any new land to develop. So we're really turning to a redevelopment type of future in Harford County. And the other thing I want to point out too with the master plan is that this is probably not good for me to say as a planner. I'm not a big fan of master plans in the sense that they take a significant amount of time to complete. They do not mandate anything upon the council, anything upon the administration to do. It's all sort of pie in the sky stuff. And with the Harford County master plan right now, or throughout its history, the most important thing in that document to me and to the council is the land use plan, and more specifically, the land use map. The land use map itself is a higher level of zoning. It doesn't go into specific zoning districts or anything like that. It has a specific categories of industrial, employment, agricultural, residential, and then our zoning districts fit within those categories. At this time, the Castley administration has no desire to expand the development envelope. It has no desire to change any of those land use designations. And that land use map and those land use designations are what inform the Department of Planning and Zoning's review of every single comprehensive rezoning application that comes in to our department. That is the first thing we look at. There are many other things that we look at when we consider rezoning requests, but that is mainly the first thing we look at. Is it consistent? I'll give you a pretty easy example. If someone comes in and asks for a B3 zoning that's in the ag area up in Norrisville, it's unlikely that we're going to make a recommendation for that. It's not consistent with the land use plan, and it's not consistent with the general patterns of development in that area of the county. So that's a very easy example for you, but that's also what council should be looking at too, is when you receive that package from us, you'll be looking at each rezoning application request, and you should be considering it against that land use plan. Getting back to the process a little bit, I'll just go briefly over that. Again, we'll be accepting applications on June 1st, and we'll do that for 2 months. I think it's actually June 3rd through August 2nd. I think June 3rd is a Monday, and then we'll be doing that for 60 days. As we receive those applications, we'll be reviewing them ourselves in the Department of Planning and Zoning, as well as sending them out to other agencies to review and provide comment, whether it be DPW, whether it be the Health Department, Parks and Recreation, and there are various other agencies or sections that we send that to. We then develop our recommendations, and for the public, the Department of Planning and Zoning only makes a recommendation. It's ultimately council who decides whether there will be a rezoning. Our recommendations are, we think it should be rezoned to the requested rezoning, it shouldn't be rezoned, or we may recommend a different zoning. So for example, let's say someone had an R1 zoning currently, and they wanted to upzone to R4. We may say that's inappropriate, but we may say, well, we think it should be rezoned, and R2 is more appropriate. That certainly is something that could happen. We also then send that to the Planning Advisory Board, and they will hold, last time we held 2 public meetings. I anticipate 2 public meetings this time. I think it was at Bel Air and Edgewood were the schools that we had those meetings at last time. But the Planning Advisory Board will also make recommendations. And as in 2016, we'll send you all the comprehensive zoning log and book, which will have the recommendations of the department and the Planning Advisory Board. And then you all will have your public hearings, which we then will post the properties with signs letting the public know when those hearings are. And then once that's done, we will wait to see what council does with those requests, and then that package, you will vote on that, and then certainly, hopefully, it gets passed, and then we move on, and if the county executive signs that legislation, then the next step is taking those zoning maps and updating them based on the new rezonings, and anybody that has received a rezoning, if they were looking to receive a rezoning to a specific zoning district or category, then that will allow them, if they have development plans, to move forward under that new zoning district and realize those plans that they had for their property. So that's really the process in a nutshell. The legislation itself is very basic. It's pretty much the same. I think the same legislation has come across to council for every comprehensive zoning as far as suspending piecemeal rezoning and starting comprehensive zoning. So that's all I have at this time. I look forward to taking any questions.
Mr. Grimm, just for the public's knowledge, in 2016, we did a master plan, and we did a land use plan, and during comp zoning. How many applicants did we have? Do you remember?
During the last comprehensive zoning?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
During the last comprehensive zoning, we had 115 applications, and we had 6 what I'll call department requests. If you don't mind, I'll just talk about that real quick. Comprehensive zoning, in theory, theoretically, is we're looking at every parcel in the county. So is council. Now, that's not really reality. But when you open up a comprehensive zoning, you're considering the zoning of all parcels within the county. So as part of that, the department will also look at properties that are what I call, again, I'll give you another easy example, like the properties that are the hole in the donut, where we say have an area that is all zoned B3 now, and there's one property in there that's zoned R1. And it's caused problems as properties have developed around it with buffers or landscaping and all. And we don't receive a request from that property owner, but we may send a letter to the property owner and say, we see that this property is zoned R1. It really would be more appropriate if it was zoned B3. If you're okay with it, we will submit an application on your behalf. They don't have to pay for it or anything like that. And if they're generally favorable in their response, then we'll move forward with it. If they're not, if they don't get back to us, typically we don't. We had that situation down in Box Hill during the last comprehensive rezoning, right past the grocery store, before you get to Woodsdale Road. Before you get to Wegmans, I forget, it's a giant, I believe.
Right.
There were like 3 or 4 parcels there that were all surrounded by B3, and they were zoned like R1. And I think it was 4 parcels, and 3 of them got back to us and said, sure, if you want to ask for the rezoning on our behalf, we'll allow you to do that. So I think there's still one down there that's zoned R1.
Okay. So those 6 are ones that the department recommended to go in.
Right, and the other instance is when we need to correct an error. We don't see as many errors as we do in the past with GIS technology these days, but it's not unheard of to say during the last comprehensive rezoning, let's say a property was supposed to be entirely rezoned to B3, and it's, say, 2 acres, and for whatever reason during the updating to the actual maps in that GIS file layer, we only struck a line halfway through the property, and that was a mistake. We will fix those mistakes, and those could also be a department issue.
Sure.
Very, very rare these days.
So do you anticipate more applicants this go around or less due to the fact that it's just the comp zoning, no master plan, no land use plan?
I think, well, the easiest answer to your question is I expect a lot less.
Okay.
I keep joking across the street that we need to start a betting pool to see how many we actually receive. But my guess would be we would receive less than 100 requests, but nothing ever surprises.
Sure. Counsel, Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Grimm, Mr. Richardson, thank you for being here. I do have just some concerns about the strategy of economic development in Harford County. And I believe that, not doing the master plan and just going for comprehensive rezoning is really putting the cart before the horse. Because many of the things that are considered in the master plan, like housing, infrastructure, education, all these things go into the design of really what the comprehensive zoning is there for. And we've saw over the last year that piecemealing, spot zoning has occurred to change the impact of different zoning districts. For instance, if you look at the Perryman Peninsula, LI was changed to not include warehousing, right? That's a major significant change that should have been done during master plan. So I think it's really just kind of circumventing the system. So with all that said, is there a timeline or a plan to do the master plan going forward? And I understand the restraints of timing at this point, and I agree with you that it's going to take 2 to 3 years to do an adequate master plan review, 100%. I don't think that waiting for the state to determine what they're going to do and decide for our county, I think we can always add or change what we need to. But back to my question, is there a timeline, or do you have an idea of when this administration will visit the master plan?
Absolutely. I respectfully disagree with you over the need for the master plan prior to comprehensive zoning. I will say, though, that yes, that is the typical process by which we move forward. We do a master plan update and then comprehensive rezoning. Again, there are many, many factors and reasons why. But speaking to your point on timing, timing is really one of the other ones that I did not discuss that is a factor. We have several things going against us that go back many years that got us out of cycle. In 2005, we did a comprehensive zoning, and that was vetoed by then County Executive David Craig. And we restarted that in 2008. Another timing thing that has put us in a weird situation is that we did a master plan update in 2012. When the Glassman administration came in, they 2 years later decided that they were going to do another master plan update, which was, even though I managed that process, it was unwarranted. It was not necessary. It was a vanity project for the Director of Planning and Zoning at that time, just to put it bluntly. So those things kind of put us out of sequence moving forward. And as you then go forward to today, we are at a situation where we're coming up against an election as well. And when you extrapolate out those timeframes, if we would have started a master plan, say summer of last year, that 3-year cycle, 3-year process would have put us then into 2026. The state requires that we do a master plan once every 10 years. That schedule is what I would say is more forgiving as far as going past that 10 years than comprehensive zoning, which is very specific in our zoning code, must happen every 8 years. You'll see many other jurisdictions, if you go online, the MDP's website will tell you they're 2 years out of date for doing their master plan and things like that. What I'm getting at is there's a lot of competing factors and schedules and timeframes, whether it be elections, whether it be the timing from which a master plan has to get done, that we would be coming up against the deadline with the state to do the master plan, and then we would be starting a comprehensive zoning cycle at that same time, or be in the master plan cycle at the same time as the comp cycle, which doesn't make any sense either. So it's an unfortunate set of circumstances, but that's what we're dealing with. To get to the meat of your question is, what I anticipate is that we have 1 year from the time that we accept our first application to get that bill over to the council to consider. Once that is complete, then we will start we will start our work on the master plan. And when we do that, we will take all the time that we need to make sure that we have all the stakeholders and listen to all the concerns of the citizens council, and also listen to the administration's policies and how they want to move forward, and we will craft a master plan. What I envision happening is, once we complete that master plan, it is conceivable that we will do another comprehensive zoning again, because we do not need to wait. The council and the county executive do not need to wait 8 years. And that was, again, in 2005, County Executive Craig vetoed it. We did it again in 2008 and completed that cycle. So I envision doing a master plan after we get done this comprehensive zoning, and then it's likely that we will initiate another comprehensive zoning depending on the outcome of that master plan.
I think that's important because, any leader will tell you to have success, you need clearly defined expectations. And those expectations, I think, will be defined in the master plan. So I look forward to that coming forward and then following with another comprehensive rezoning. Because really, this kind of boils down to growth, right? Economic growth. Based off of the current, indications, the financial impact of what's taken place in our county, we need careful, balanced economic growth so we can pay for the gentleman over here. We can pay for the schools. So that's the concern that I have, to make sure that we have that. And you illustrated it earlier when you talked about the limited capacity of growth in our development envelope, right? The Ag Pres has done a great job outside of the development envelope, but we need to make sure that we take each opportunity, those property owners take each opportunity for success for the county, for them on each of their properties. So, and as these requests come forward, and I can tell you, this is the sentiment across the whole county, that this is an anti-development business administration. Do you see a sense of when those recommendations come over to the county council that a lot of them won't be recommended just because the administration doesn't want growth?
I wouldn't characterize it as that. I think the administration wants growth that they believe is going to be beneficial to the county and is the appropriate type of growth and an appropriate type of economic development to really drive the county. With respect to economic development, the master plan, comprehensive zoning, kind of rolling that all into one thing, is we need to understand that as a county, as I said before, there's not a whole lot of land left to be developed. And there's always that specter of, are we going to expand the development envelope? And certainly that could happen in the future. But we are so hemmed in. If you take a look at the development envelope on a map and then you put in those shape files, those GIS shape files that show you all of the properties that have been preserved through ag preservation and other environmental easements, there's not a whole lot of possibility anywhere on the fringes of the development envelope to say, hey, we're going to go and grab a couple thousand acres and master plan that and do something with it. Because there are those factors such as those easements and agricultural preservation programs where you can't run a sewer line through, you can't run a road through. And then you have environmental issues. Developers develop the land that's easiest first. And so what we're seeing being developed now is mainly those infill areas that are questionable, do not have a whole lot of development potential. And that's the same thing going around the outskirts of the development envelope. On the west side, you have Winter's Run, and you have all kinds of environmental constraints there that do not lend themselves well to running infrastructure, water and sewer and things like that. So I'm not saying that in the future that this administration or future administrations wouldn't consider expansions of the development envelope, but that ability to do that is extremely limited.
And I agree, everything you said, I 100% support, and that's why we need to make sure that each of these requests that come over, we carefully consider, and really advocate for the property owners and business so we can, take advantage of the limited potential growth that we have.
And if I may, I apologize. I did want to say, the other point that I want to make too is that for many, many decades, everybody's put their efforts into trying to see and realize the redevelopment potential of the Southern County. And of course, we have the Southern County Task Force that's not really looking at zoning at this time, more life, health, livability type things. But we want to focus, and the Castle administration is focusing their efforts on the Route 40 corridor and seeing meaningful redevelopment and reinvestment in that area. And one of the other things is if we would expand the development envelope or give out a whole bunch of new commercial zonings, that really then takes the focus off of, hey, we have all of this prime land here near a major interstate with great transportation access that we should be focusing on. And the more that you distract from that, the less bang for our buck that we're going to get in the Southern County. So the Castle administration's focus is really on that Southern County area.
Two more short questions. One opportunity that the county has that I think is more of a health and welfare issue is Route 22 and perhaps expanding the water and sewer out that direction. Would the administration give any consideration to the health and welfare of expanding it so these failing septic systems in the Churchville area can be considered?
Every administration since I've been here has wrestled with the questions of serving Harford Community College and also taking care of those issues with those communities that were developed at a time when we allowed what was called a packaged wastewater treatment system. We don't allow those anymore because HOAs shouldn't be in the business of maintaining packaged treatment systems. So the answer is yes. We are evaluating how and when we would be able to serve those communities in those areas to fix those problems, with the focus not being on expanding the development envelope for new growth, but to fix those problems so that we can get it in the priority funding area, get it in the development envelope. But the secondary part of that is you can expand the development envelope, but to actually serve those properties is a significant engineering feat. As I think most engineers will tell you, you can engineer your way out of anything, but finding the money to do it is a whole different thing. So in order to serve Harford Community College in those areas, that's going to take significant paralleling of sewers that are not of an adequate size now, or rebuilding those sewers. So it's a significant engineering challenge and even more fiscal challenge that even if we expand the development envelope, that's years down the road before we can solve that problem.
Mr. Pittman, before you go any further, just for the record, that's Bel Air, not Churchville.
It is, you're right. So, and then my last question, I know you have a small team, you guys do a great job over there, and it looks like you have a lot facing you going forward with, comp zoning, master plan, and perhaps another comp zoning on the back of it. Does your department have the resources needed to make sure that you're, able to handle what's coming forward?
Well, certainly we are very short-staffed right now and probably historically at the lowest staffing levels in the department since I've been there. But I believe based on where we're at and what I think we'll get for the number of applications, I think we have enough staff. The problem that I have right now is that the staff I have are very young and none of them have gone through this process. It only happens every 8 years generally. But I'm very pleased. Tonight I have my Chief of Long Range Planning, Alex Rawls, back here. And frankly, without him and Matt Kropp, who is also on our staff, those two have been through several comprehensive rezoning and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. They're great, cherished staff members, and where we lack from the experience from the younger staff, we make up in those two gentlemen who have a lot of experience.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm.
Thanks, Mr. Penman. Mr. Bennett?
Hello, thank you for being here tonight. I just thought it'd be good to ask for public clarity. You know, we won't be doing any spot zoning throughout this process, but if we as a council wanted to visit a specific zoning use or definition, you know, for instance, looking at LI to address the need to include language about horse training facilities, if, you know, we were able to get the state to designate our community for that horse training facility, we're still able to do those types of changes throughout comprehensive rezoning. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I should have said earlier, kind of how things, hierarchy of things. So at the very top, you have the master plan and the land use plan, very high level. And then from there, you have comprehensive zoning. And then where the rubber meets the road is the zoning code at the bottom. That's where everyday things happen. And what you're speaking to are changes to the actual zoning code to say, hey, we want to put a P in the chart to say this use is permitted, and we want to create this use as a use that can be permitted and put a definition in the zoning code. So certainly, there's nothing preventing changes to the zoning code during this process.
And you all wouldn't see that as an unfriendly process necessarily to happen while comprehensive rezoning's happening, to be looking at the zoning code and comprehensive rezoning at the same time?
For something like that, no. I mean,
Okay.
if we were talking major changes to the code at the same time, then that could be problematic. But no, that is what I would consider to be kind of a simple matter to handle.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Janserdanner?
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Well, Councilman Penman asked all the questions, but one of the biggest concerns I hear from a lot of the citizens is the infrastructure. And how do we fix the infrastructure as we take some of this land that we no longer have and redevelop it? We've got a lot of state roads that we have, and they seems like there's periods of time where they're overwhelmed. You know, I've worked with trying to get a traffic signal on Moores Mill Road, a left-hand turn signal, which the state has come back a couple of times and said, no, it's not warranted. But how do we fix the infrastructure, upgrade our infrastructure, our roads? How do we do that before we keep expanding out to handle this stuff? I know at one point, and years ago when they built 24, originally there was overpasses that were supposed to be, and they killed all that. Now we see the traffic going back and forth and that. And I think there's an issue if they build something down a Plumtree where they're going to take the road and widen it, but only down to Singer Road, not all the way down to Plumtree. Where do we stand on that? How do we look at that, and how do we move forward with something like that?
Sure. Well, when we're looking at state roads, that's a completely different ballgame. And as Mr. Rawls will tell you, every year, and this time of year especially, we're going to bat to try to fight for those state dollars to try to get our priority projects funded. And a lot of those big projects, those state road projects that you're talking about, we're really beholden to the state and trying to convince them. And one of the things that I'll say is that the Castle administration has been very proactive with making sure we reach out to the state, and we have regular quarterly meetings now with SHA. We have big meetings, lots of people in the room, and also former MDOT staff member Jim Ports is on our team now, and that's, I think Mr. Rawls will also tell you, that's really paid dividends as far as the connections we now have in MDOT and SHA. So from the state side, it's really a challenge. We're just trying to go after a very small pot of money for everyone throughout the state to try to get our projects funded, and that's problematic. From the county's perspective, I often say that we're planning in reverse, because I think most people in this room would probably agree that specifically in the 70s and 80s, we did not do a good job of thinking ahead, because the development envelope concept was in 1977 when we said, hey, we need to focus growth in this area. But I don't think a lot of thought went into, hey, we need to really think about road intersections. And one of the problems that we're having now also is, our APF only deals with road intersections. I think that's what most people forget, is we're only looking at road intersections and the capacity at those intersections. We don't look at road segments. So a traffic study is not going to say, hey, you need to add an extra lane on 24 from Singer to wherever. It's only looking at those intersections. So certainly that's something that we would like to look at in the future, is upgrading our APF to take a look at how we can accommodate additional traffic. Of course, I'm speaking specifically to traffic now because that was your question. Water and source, whole different ballgame.
So why don't we do this now, look at that, instead of when do you plan on doing that?
Well, that APF component is not a simple thing to just do and quickly write legislation and get it across the street. That's something that would take a lot of research, and personally, I think that, certainly in my world, we don't reinvent the wheel. There's always someone else out there across the country in planning and zoning world that has done something similar, so a lot of research to see how other jurisdictions handle APF with respect to not just road intersections, but road segments is something that we will be doing and looking at.
I mean, the Jersey circles? There aren't Jersey circles.
We won't be looking at New Jersey.
Yeah, well, there aren't Jersey circles. Well, thank you, Mr. Grimm. Appreciate it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Mr. Guthrie.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all the information you're bringing. And so my experiences from the last 12 years, I've dealt with a few of these. But I know one thing that you got to deal with. If you're talking about comprehensive rezoning and a master plan, you're not going to come back. Everything is timing, as we all know. And you're not going to, after you do a master plan, if you did you ain't going to come back 3 months and do another rezoning. You know, it's foolish. So I know timing, you have to stretch these things out to make sense. Also, you have, I don't think you do, but do you have any right to turn down somebody who comes up with a stupid proposal? And what I mean, I remember one that came in from my district last time, and God knows why they would take the kind of money, which it costs $800, to apply. And I remember one on the Chapel Farm Road in a residential area in R1. The guy put in for B3. Well, that isn't going to happen. That's the craziest thing you can imagine. And of course, he didn't get it. So you don't have any way to strike some of those that are foolish, that they ain't even got a chance in hell of getting passed.
No, we advise people, because a lot of times people will request a meeting before they do their application, and we will advise. And something simple like that, we'll say, look, there's no chance that we're going to recommend it. You can take your chances, and when we send it across the council. But no, we can't say, no, you can't submit an application. In fact, that's the reason why we raised it to $800 I can't remember what the original cost was, but we raised it to $800 to try to weed out those people that were like, well, I'll just throw my hat in the ring. It's only $100 or whatever it was at the time. So.
Also, there's not that that's an issue here for this, but the livability code was brought up, something we really need to take a look at. I know the livability code hasn't been changed since the 1980s, and it's really time that the county and the council took a look at this. And I was on the council before I introduced the bill for the livability code, and it went down by 1 vote. So it's something that we need to pay attention to here.
We are, and that's being looked at through Department of Inspections, Licenses, and Permits. So they are considering, what is existing and on the books now, and looking at other jurisdictions, and looking at improving that livability code.
And I've talked to the county executive about this a few months ago, and he's been interested in that. And I sent him a copy of my bill.
It's mainly been discussed as we've been moving forward with the Southern County Task Force. That's a big component of that.
And I also remember that, of course, I've written to the governor, and I guess they don't want to answer my letter because I haven't got a reply back from it yet. But I remember when the Annapolis met last year, when they came back, they sent us $33,988,000 for capital projects. And that was great, but what wasn't great was not a penny of that found its way to my district, which is, why is that strange? But what I did have, I put enough pressure on, finally, I'm getting that stretch paved, and they're doing it now from from Chapel Farm Road up to 152 and down the other side. So finally, we're getting that done, and thank everybody for the help getting that started. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, and I realized I missed one of my questions in my notes, and actually Dion's comments tie well into it. With the application, do I have to own a piece of property to put in an application for the zoning of that property to be considered for changing?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Seeing no other comments here, Mr. Kearney, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, we do, Mr. President. We have two individuals, David Peterson and John Malamo.
Mr. Peterson? Stand at the microphone, please. Behind you. Good evening, sir. Could I have your name and address, please?
My name is Dave Peterson. I live at 3500 Aldina Road, Churchville, Maryland. I understand that this is just an introduction to the comprehensive rezoning bill. My concern is the airport. The airport wants to expand to become a full-service jet airport. Whenever this comes up for rezoning, they want to rezone some land at the end of the runway so that they can become this. When this comes up for rezoning on their part, you all have to make a decision. Do you want a full-service, full-size jet airport there at the detriment to a lot of people in the neighborhood? I'm not going to go into all the negatives. I'll just give you one example. I used to live in San Bruno, California. Not a lot of people know that the airport for San Francisco is at San Bruno on the Bayside. We lived up toward the Pacific, and the planes that were coming out to the west would come up the hill and right over our house. And over time, you get a very fine, sooty dirt over everything. And that is a health concern. That's only one of many health concerns associated with a full-service jet airport. So whenever this comes up, they are going to put in for a parcel at the end of the runway so that they can become what they want to become. You have to decide whether you put the interests of the people ahead of the airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Sir, good evening to you and your colleagues. John P. Malamo, 2402 Eagleview Drive, Bel Air, Maryland. In the financial world, there's an event called the Triple Witching Hour. That is the hour when futures and options are settled. Those in the money collect a payday. Those out of the money settle their losses. The Harford County equivalent is comprehensive rezoning. This is the event where property owners get to request a rezoning for their property. When granted, those property owners get their payday. Residents of Harford County, and particularly those adjoining the rezoned property, get whatever mischief results from the process. The property owners, developers, their attorneys, and the county administration have no authority or power in these matters. As a county council, you alone have the power and authority for land use and zoning. With that power and authority comes great responsibilities. I can look at previous decisions on land use and zoning and count the losses. A sober living facility classified as a single-family home. The multi-unit dwelling still standing at Evermore, permitted as a single-family home. Perry Peninsula consigned as an industrial park with no buffer to the residential areas. James Run assigned MO zoning, now mostly houses and apartments, Abingdon Woods, industrial in the middle of a residential community, Harford County Airport that does not comply with the zoning code, and decision of zoning case 5814, yet continues to operate and expand. Those pursuing a rezoning due to use their land at the highest and best value within the zoning category they request to improve their financial position. They have no right to the requested rezoning, and their property rights are not infringed if the request is denied. No doubt you will receive a recommendation from the county administration. While there are many good people who work there, I have no confidence that the elected and appointed officials will provide a recommendation of any value. Their previous actions and decisions lead me to wonder whether they are capable of understanding the zoning laws, the zoning code, the concept of zoning, and the gravity of land use and zoning. There are no waypoints or landmarks to guide any of you in these matters. There is no empirical data that states how many acres are required for amusements, industrial, residential, retail trade, services, transportation, communications, and utilities or warehousing and processing uses. That is where the mischief begins. Those persons who have cultivated access and grown influence now seek to inform your decisions and shape your actions. They seek a return on their investment in Harford County's elected and appointed officials. The matter is left to your discretion. I wonder, will you use your power and authority to destroy the various communities in Harford County? Place the Euclid Village pig in the parlor? Will you sell out for a payday or settle the losses from previous decisions and actions? Hopefully, you will apply the wisdom you pray for to preserve the communities of the people you represent and make Harford County a better place.
Is there anyone else?
No, there's no more speakers.
Well, with no more speakers, we'll conclude this hearing, but Mr. Grimm, I want to thank you for your presentation. And this will conclude the public hearing for Bill 24-007. If I may, council, we'll go ahead and start our legislative session day. Chair calls to order legislative session day 24-010. I would ask you to please, before that, if I could have all the scouts come forward and join us in leading us in the pledge this evening. So again, if I may, I would ask you to please stand for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilman Jan Giordano. Whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here in service to our community, we invoke your presence among us. Guide our hearts and minds as we embark on the important work of the council meeting. Grant us the wisdom to discern what is just and fair, the compassion to understand the needs of our constituents, and our courage to act in accordance with your will. May our discussions be filled with respect, empathy, and a spirit of cooperation. Help us to find common ground and to work together for the betterment of all. Bless and protect each member of our law enforcement, fire department, EMS, and military. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Council, if I may, at this time, I'd like to welcome Sheriff Gaylor and members of his command staff to come forward. Good evening. Whenever you're ready.
Council President, members of the council, bear with me a little bit this evening, struggling with the voice. Colonel wants to sit right next to me here, so he came up. But delighted to be before you tonight to to discuss our 250th anniversary. In 1773, as you are all aware, hopefully the room's aware, Harford County was separated out from Baltimore County. And on March 22nd of 1774, the very first sheriff was appointed to office. Thomas Miller became our first sheriff here in Harford County. As near as we can tell, we think we're right. I'm the 80th sheriff to serve in this role. Maybe one of the young people who just came up and did the pledge will follow me in the years to come. We can only hope. But as sheriff's offices go, 250 years is not much. Maryland is home to the oldest sheriff's office in the state, the St. Mary County Sheriff's Office, which was formed in 1637. So the sheriff has, throughout history, played a large role in public safety and keeping the courts as well as the jails and other services. I'm honored to sit here as your sheriff as we recognize, excuse me, our 250th anniversary. I did bring with us tonight one of the commemorative patch cards. We are having an open house on our birthday, which is Friday, March 22nd, at the Southern Precinct in Edgewood from 3 to 7 p.m. You are all invited to join us, as is the entire public. We're going to have displays, historical displays, vehicles, canine demonstrations, SWAT rappelling and things. All the assets that the sheriff's office have will be on display, again, from 3 to 7 p.m. It worked out nice, and so far the weather looks like it's going to cooperate. That's a half-day school day for our young people. So hopefully, again, invite you all to come out. Everyone who attends will be getting a patch card, which shows the history of the sheriff's office, along with the patches throughout history and the commemorative anniversary patch. You all are among the not the very first, but among the very first to receive one of these this evening, and my honor to present to you, and to be accompanied by our command staff, the colonel, the warden, members of our command, along with many of our personnel who are with you on a regular basis. And with that, I would like to say, for those of you who are familiar, Tom Gamble, Captain Gamble from the Southern Precinct, has announced his retirement. Our promotional board for that pending vacancy concluded today. And as you all are familiar, I believe, Lieutenant Dave McDougal, who is with us this evening, will be promoted to captain April 13th. April 13th. So he will be taking over command of the Southern Precinct very shortly. And with that, I thank you for having us in, and happy to take any questions if you can stand my voice.
Council, it is your time if you want to ask any questions. We are going to have a little bit of a photo session here in a second, and present you with a proclamation. I don't see any I'm sorry, Mr. Penman.
Not a question, maybe one, but just a comment. What an extraordinary agency Harford County Sheriff's Office is, and to see it grow over my time here in Harford County has been really something to see. And I tell you, out in the community, you're well regarded, and that is, very evident by the different surveys that you've conducted over the years. So I appreciate the Sheriff's Office and all you do for our community. And just for the open house, I'm looking forward to see that new command bus. Is that new command bus going to be present?
That's still up in the air, we will see.
Thank you.
I will offer that we have just resurveyed. We did a survey 3 years ago in the wake of George Floyd, and we reported on it here, but for the audience and those watching, the results that came in of the Harford County Sheriff's Office and the 3 municipal agencies, Bel Air, Aberdeen, and Havre de Grace, it was a county-wide survey. The independent survey company said that they had never seen results that good anywhere in the country. We just did another survey. The results will be coming out in the coming week or so. We're going to put a social media post out and then share the survey. They weren't quite as good, but they're right in the exact same ballpark. We've came down a little bit, but I'll take it. And again, the survey company this time said any police department in the country would kill, figuratively, to have the survey results that we were able to receive. And I think that's indicative of the men and women who do the job, to Councilman Penman's point, but also to the wonderful community members that we have that it's reciprocal. The citizens support the Sheriff's Office, law enforcement, corrections, and all the functions that we have. And in return, the deputies do a great job. So it's a reciprocal relationship. And again, I speak for everyone here and the nearly 700 employees of the office. When Sheriff Kunkel was sheriff, he had all 16 members of the sheriff's office on the back of his badge. I can't list the nearly 700, but it has grown, as our county has grown, to meet our needs.
Well, speaking for someone that hasn't had an opportunity to ride firsthand with the deputies, I mean, they are extremely professional when they're on the road, and you're right, the citizens do appreciate everything they do. We see it every day, and we thank you for the service that all of you and all of the other men and women in the office show. So with that, Mr. Jan Giordano?
Be it hereby known that the County Council of Harford County, Maryland, on this 19th day of March 2024, recognizes and congratulates Harford County Sheriff's Office 250th anniversary and express our appreciation for their dedication and commitment to the safety and security of Harford County residents for the past 250 years and into the future.
We're going to take a couple photos here, so. Sure, we can do it however you want, because I'm going to bring council members down too.
Okay, we'll do, I did close up with you now, and
Okay.
we'll do.
Wanna do some cigarettes? Yep.
Tall ones in the back. I think you guys are coming down.
I'm not tall.
Need bigger heels, that's all.
You good? Jacob?
I'm here.
Okay.
You, sir, can you step this way just a bit? Thank you. And everybody else on that side of him. Perfect, in the back row. And then, you, this way just a bit, please. Great. Okay. Mr. Giangiuliano, this way just a tad, is perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the call, Josh.
Good being seen, I'm here.
Good job, guys. Good job. Good job.
You know what, if it's not too much trouble, could I have the scout roll up front?
Hey. Appreciate what you do, man.
I'm guessing yes.
Councilman, one back, Jeff. You're not coming in either? You want some this way?
So I'm gonna have all of the scouts in a front row and then everyone else in a back row. So you can all come forward. And then everybody in the back row step this way, please. And maybe a couple from the side. I'll bigger on this side. Okay. And then, just to center it up a bit, I have everybody in the front row step this way just a little bit, and Mr. Bennett. And everybody scooch in on the ends, get a nice and tight. Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Agenda number 5, consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. We have none. 6, special presentations, Boy Scouts of America, Baltimore Area Council, State of Scouting Update. Whoever would like to come forward. No, right here in the chair. Send you up here by yourself?
Pull that microphone close to you. A little closer, probably.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Edie Benner, and I attend Harvard Grace High School and am an Eagle Scout from Troop 1920, chartered to Christ Our King Church. There's a saying that goes, the only problem with scouting is that they meet in church basements and camp in the woods. Nobody ever sees them. But did you know that the Scouting program is one of the largest youth-serving organizations in Harford County? New this year, we wanted to provide county leadership with an update on the Scouting program in Harford County for 2023 and share some of the positive impacts that Scouting has had in our community. In my Scouting journey, I've had the wonderful opportunity to staff the spring course of National Youth Leadership Training, or MYLT. This is one of the many programs that the BSA offers. By being a part of the MYLT staff, I've been able to meet so many new people and truly understand the importance of leadership while in a fun environment. This course provides participants with effective skills such as communicating, problem solving, planning, leading change, and setting goals. Not only can participants take what they've learned on their course back to their troop, crew, or ship, but they can also apply it within their community. This year, we'd like to present the county with our annual report card on Scouting to share a few accomplishments of Scouts in Harford County. Last year, 1,404 youth participated in the Scouting program, which was comprised of 44 packs and troops chartered by local churches and community organizations. 1,153 Scouting adult leaders served the youth of Harford County, providing a high-quality Scouting program each week. Scouting's annual Scouting for Food drive collected over 13,802 pounds of food that stayed here in Harford County through distribution to local food banks and pantries. Between the Scouting for Food drive and other good turns in our community, Scouts participated in 9,724 hours of community service last year. Further, Scouts earned over 2,319 merit badges, helping them learn new and valuable skills that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. And in 2023, 48 Scouts earned the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout and contributed an impressive $97,720 worth of value added to their local communities through their Eagle Scout projects. Scouting has been instrumental in shaping me into a more effective leader, equipping me with invaluable skills, and fostering a sense of responsibility in our community. I appreciate your interest and support in the Scouting program in Harford County and welcome your support in its continued success across Central Maryland. Thank you.
Wow, outstanding. Thank you for that report. Don't run off. Don't run off. I think maybe my colleagues may have a couple of questions. I don't know. So
Okay.
we'll give them an opportunity. Anyone? Mr. Guthrie?
What happens when you run out of room on there to put any of those merit badges?
I'm already on the back.
All right. How many is that? Your dad says it's 51?
Yep, 51.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I think I got short of I think it was 21 to be an Eagle Scout, wasn't it?
I think it's 24.
24? Whatever the number is, I was a couple short when I was at St. Ambrose in Park Heights Avenue. And the reason I decided to give it up is I wanted to join the CYO because all the girls were over there.
That's enough, Mr. Guthrie. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you for being here tonight. I am an Eagle Scout from Troop 777, and I used to be an NYLT trainer and 6 summers at Broad Creek, so I see and value what you all do so much every day. And also, just as this probably ages me a little bit, but I remember back in 2012, my first experience with co-ed scouting was a Canadian troop coming to Broad Creek and interacting them for the first time and going, oh my goodness, this is an option almost everywhere else in the world. And then a few summers later, we had a Japanese troop come to Broad Creek, and we got to interact with them, and it was such a cool experience. And I remember as staff members at the time, us all just saying, why isn't this happening here? And now, all these years later, it is, and it's a success, and it's amazing. So, thank you to all of our young ladies for being the trailblazers to get that going and to show how successful you can be in the program. I mean, that's going to impact kids for a long time. So, thank you for that. I guess what I would just like to say is, to your adults, I've been an adult leader in Scouts as well for my boys that I mentor, and you never realize just how much those adults are doing for you until you're in the role doing it, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not just hanging out, like I'm I'm helping kids and I'm doing work and I'm taking time from work and from free time to help. So kudos to your adults for that, and just kudos to you all. I know what it's like to be in your shoes, and it was 2007, I came to a council meeting to get my Sit in the Community Merit Badge and did the pledge, and then here I am in this seat. So it's just really cool to have you here tonight, and I just wanted to celebrate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Riley?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the adult members of the Boy Scout. What a positive role model. Being in law enforcement for 24 years and then the courts, I don't think I personally know of any Scout member that ever ended up me locking up or being in the courts. And I attribute that a lot to the fact of what you folks in the back do. And so, not only do I appreciate it, but our community appreciates it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. Giordano?
So how long have you been in Scouts?
For 4 years.
4 years. You've done all that in 4 years.
Yep.
I was wondering, I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So it shows your dedication. And I have to say, one of the best things I think for me, that since I've been a councilman, is the time that we were able to put Broad Creek in land preservation. I think, I had only gotten to Broad Creek one time. We had an event up there and just saw how amazing it was. So I know that money would go to good use up there. We have this amazing facility in our backyard that's unmatched probably in a lot of different places. So I was really happy to see that, and best of luck on continuing with scouting. So thank you for coming, and thank you the rest of you for being here as well. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. And Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to say how impressive you did. Great job on your presentation. And just kind of echo what my colleagues said, and thank you guys for your service to the community. And I'll just piggyback off what Councilman Riley said. Well, what a great foundation that each of you will have and really put you on the path for success for our county and for you and your family. So keep up the good work, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Penman, and thank you again.
Am I good now?
Yes, you can go now.
Go.
Agenda item number 7, approval of minutes, public hearing March 12, 2024, legislative day 24-009, March 12, 2024. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing no corrections, the minutes stand approved. Agenda 8, introduction and consideration of resolutions, we have none. 9, introduction of bills. Mr. Giordano, please read Bill 24-009.
Bill 24-009, zoning cannabis dispensary, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the county executive. An act to repeal and reenact with amendments Article 1, general provisions of Part 1 standards of Chapter 267 zoning of the Harford County Code, and Article 7 district regulations of Part 1 standards of Chapter 267 zoning of the Harford County Code as amended, to add the definition of cannabis dispensary to Section 267-4 by adding to Section 267-59C, cannabis dispensary as a permitted use under the B3 use district under special circumstances by adding to Section 267-60C, cannabis dispensary as permitted use under the CI use district under special circumstance by amending the permitted use chart under Chapter 267 zoning of the Harford County Code by adding cannabis dispensary as a new category under retail trade permitted only in the B3 and CI use districts pursuant to the special conditions in Section 267-59C, parentheses 11, and 267-60C, parentheses 15, and generally related to zoning. Public hearing scheduled for Tuesday, April 16th, 2024, at 7 p.m. in these council chambers.
Thank you. Number 10, introduction and consideration of amendments. Please read, Mr. Giangiordano, please read Amendment 1 to Bill 24-004 into the record.
Amendment 1 to Bill Number 24-004, Plumbing Code, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive, on page 16 in line 8, strike 106.9.5 and substitute 109.5.
Thank you. Because of timing, these amendments will be considered this evening. They were brought up at the public hearing this past week, and totally expecting them. They're mostly clerical errors, so may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Amendment 1 for Bill 24-004, Plumbing Code.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. It's moved and seconded to approve Amendment 1 to Bill 24-001. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kearney?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie,
Aye.
Mr. Penman,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, Amendment 1 to Bill 24-001 is hereby approved. Mr. Giangiordano, please read Amendments 1 through 3 to Bill 24-005.
Amendments 1 through 3 to Bill Number 24-005, Building Code, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. Amendment Number 1, on page 2, the first page after the title page in the header and footer, insert Bill 24-005. Amendment Number 2, on page 2, the first page after the title page in the footer, strike 2 and substitute 1 as the page number. Amendment Number 3, on page 45, in line 26, strike 395.1 and substitute 305.1.
Thank you, and again, these amendments will be considered this evening. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Amendments 1 through 3 for Bill 24-005, Building Code.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. It's moved and seconded to approve Amendments 1 through 3 for Bill 24-005. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kearney?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie.
Aye.
Mr. Penman.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, Amendments 1 through 3 to Bill 24-005 are hereby approved. 11, call for final reading of bills. Bill 24-003, height monitoring. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Bill 24-003, height monitoring.
May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. It's moved and seconded to approve Bill 24-003. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kearney?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie.
Aye.
Mr. Penman.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, Bill 24-003, height monitoring is hereby approved. Bill 24-004, plumbing code as amended. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Bill 24-004, plumbing code.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. It's been moved and seconded to approve Bill 24-004 as amended. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kearney?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie.
Aye.
Mr. Penman.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, Bill 24-004 as amended is hereby approved. Bill 24-005, building code as amended. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Bill 24-005, building code.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
As amended.
As
As
amended.
amended.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. It has been moved and seconded to approve Bill 24-005 as amended. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kearney?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, Bill 24-005 as amended is hereby approved. Bill 24-006, Electrical Code. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Bill 24-006, Electrical Code.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Been moved and seconded to approve Bill 24-006, Electrical Code. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kearney?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, Bill 24-006, Electrical Code is hereby approved. Agenda item number 12, enrollment of bills. Bill 24-003, height monitoring. Bill 24-004, plumbing code as amended. Bill 24-005, building code as amended. Bill 24-006, electrical code are all certified as being the text finally passed. 13, unfinished business, we have none. 14, new business, we have none. 17, comments and input from attending citizens. Mr. Kearney, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, sir. It looks like we have 5 citizens that want to speak this evening.
I will remind each speaker that we have 3 minutes, and I would expect you to be respectful of each other and everyone in this room. Call your first speaker.
It'd be Thomas Fry, and that will be followed by Katie Ganano.
Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Thomas Fry, address 3421 McCummins Road, Churchville. Good evening, Council President, council members, and fellow citizens. I'm Thomas Fry, McCummins Road. I'm here this evening to request your help in addressing concerns regarding the airport expansion. 2013, there was approximately 30 planes hangared at the airport. Now it's over 70 and doubling and growing each day. We gleaned from the public input meeting in December 2023 that they're proposing upwards of 200 aircraft. The near-miss situation and tragic fatal accident which occurred in past July could give results more lost lives had that plane crashed on 155 or over neighboring houses. As a volunteer firefighter for many years, the catastrophic events which occurred in many aircraft accidents are feared by myself and residents in the area. Recommend that our outstanding level volunteer fire company be funded for aircraft emergency response equipment in the next cycle. Institute a bill requiring persons flying into Harford County Airport be insured. Harford County Flight School has brought a large number of novice pilots into the airspace over the homes, increasing chances for accidents and misses. I'm asking for your assistance in zoning adherence to Harford County Airport, which would provide a safer airport operation and coexistence for hundreds of residents and neighbors. Request code enforcements whereby no more than 50% of the ground upon which a commercial operation is conducted may be in the AG agricultural district. Review airport site plans for violations of safety impacts on future residential areas such as Aldino Stepney Road, which is currently being developed and is impacted by the takeoff and landings. Introduce a bill to establish a call-in hotline for aircraft operations. Currently, the approach and landing pads are located over properties not owned by the Harford County Airport, and rule enforcements do not exist to protect property owners of the airspace. Hotline for the Harford County residences and business could witness unsafe air operations and provide more accountability. Minimize airport use and cease and desist any additional restaurants, snack bars, rental agencies, or parachute activities which fall within commercial use and will change the rural landscape of our area. Enforce the zoning codes regarding storage of petroleum products at the airport due to the potential fuel spillage impacts on adjacent residential properties, which are not serviced by public water and sewer, as well as potential impact to local waterways. And request a long-term risk assessment study be conducted now on the impacts of residents, populations, environment, and infrastructure in a 4 square mile radius prior to any zoning changes or build-out approvals. I thank you for your attention.
Mr. Fry, typically I'm able to keep up with the speaker and write notes. I stopped. If you would, please make sure that we get a copy of your comments this evening. Mr. Kearney right here down front would love to have it. Thank you, sir. Call your next speaker.
Katie Ganana.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and
Counsel.
address.
Can you hear me okay?
That's fine.
Katie Ganano, 2320 Franklin's Chance Court, Falston, Maryland, 21047. Good evening. Many people say the root of all evil is money. I believe that for the most part, but even more than money, I think greed is the true problem and the root of all evil. A combination of money and power, I guess. If you look at our federal government, there are issues of greed. These have trickled down for decades and are becoming an increased problem in states and counties. Mr. Penman, I feel as though you
Mr.
are...
Ganano, let me stop you right
Yep.
there. I've had so many calls from citizens across this county on both sides of this issue, and I figured tonight would be the night that I take a stance. I don't want you reaching out and calling Mr. Penman by name, and I don't want anybody speaking to Mr. Castley by name in this
Okay.
chamber.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Okay. There is someone on the council that is on both the executive and the judicial branch, okay? Last week, several speakers brought this up. I just want to make sure that there is a full understanding of the checks and balances, and the real idea of the separation of powers and why the framers of the Constitution laid them out for our great nation. If you're not overly familiar with the Federalist Papers, I think perhaps if you look at the notes from 42 and 54 are of great information. I don't think one person should be able to write laws and enforce them. Again, that is just unconstitutional. It is against county code. It is against the Maryland Constitution, and furthermore, it's against the Constitution of the United States of America. I'm gonna have to skip a part. Okay. I'm concerned about some members on the county council being lured by greed, perhaps, to overdevelop our county. I'm not sure if they like traffic, if they want to wait extra time at the hospital. I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to have more children in crowded classrooms, but I think that this greed has taken them over. Again, I've talked about this many of times. The infrastructure is lacking big time. Some of you are more focused on development and, okay. With that being said, I had to skip over a couple parts, sorry. I was gonna say, one bill I have agreed with my councilman is not, or just to have the United States flag, the state flag, and the county flag at the schools. I think that's a good thing. I was curious in terms of thinking of bills for Bill 24-001. I was not personally in favor of the bill, but I wanted to know why it was dismissed. Are there plans of it coming back? And then also, for those of you who really cared about the elderly aging in place, like Mr. Riley you were talking about, I was curious if perhaps the old legislation about ADUs could be revisited to help the elderly age in place more appropriately, or the way that they would like to. Again, I'm gonna have to skip over a couple of things. I appreciate the things that you do, and I hope we can take a look at the separation of powers a little bit more.
Thank you, ma'am. And both of these council members will reach out to you via email to respond to your questions this evening. Thank you. Call your next speaker.
Dale Livingston, followed by Diana Sadowski.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Dale Livingston, 1908 Angleside Road, Fallston. Last week, I spoke to you about the detrimental decision by the Maryland Supreme Court regarding our ambiguous charter rule concerning who can and cannot sit on the council. As I said, that decision put not only our county, but every county in the state of Maryland in a precarious position as it relates to the governing body's authority to make their own rules and to uphold them. And when you have council members who are allowed to thumb their noses at our governing body and its rules, well, then you have no rules at all. Where will you draw the line? So are the people allowed to thumb their noses at the rules and laws? Why do we have to live by rules and laws that we don't like, while the councilmen are allowed to subvert them? And there you sit on the dais and lord over the group here, the citizens, pontificating about your care about our county and its citizens, while in the meantime, you're making a sham out of our Constitution and our charter rules and laws because you think you're above them. Well, I just want to let you know that this disrespect of our Constitution and our county and county laws is coming to an end. The people are realizing that they are being disrespected and humiliated by the mere fact that you and other elected officials from the state and federal governments are playing us for fools, as you think we are fools and know nothing about what you're really doing to our communities, our schools, our children, our businesses, our lives in general. You think we're not aware, but you are so wrong about that. And in the next elections coming up, 2024 and 2026, you will know that the people are done. We are done with the unconstitutional representation. We are done with the lies, the placating, the unlawful mandates, and every other attempt you make to keep us in our place. Our place is to decide whether or not we give you the authority over protecting our rights. Fortunately for you, you are currently in another probationary period. If you fail this time, you will be fired in 2026. We, the people of the United States of America, know our place, and it is not to give you the opportunity to misuse and disrespect us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir? Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Diana Sadowski. My throat's a little better today. 1113 Stromco Drive, Falston, Maryland. First of all, I want to say kudos to the Sheriff's Department and also to the Scouts for being here tonight. Just this past week, an 80-year-old woman was robbed and attacked in the Aldi's parking lot in Bel Air. According to reports, these thugs punctured her vehicle's tire, banged repeatedly on her trunk to distract her, and stole her purse. Needless to say, this was a well-planned attack by predators who now live among us. Much thanks go out to the citizens who stepped up to help this woman and scare off her attackers. Unfortunately, I feel that this is just the beginning of what we're going to see more of. And since we currently have a connection to the sheriff's office on the council, perhaps we can get an update next week on this crime and what action the department is taking to prevent this from repeating. Just think, that 80-year-old woman could have been your mother, could have been your grandmother, who's now, I'm sure, quite fearful on venturing out for something as uncomplicated as groceries. Gentlemen of the council, the horse is out of the barn. But I believe it's not too late in Harford County to lasso it and return it to its proper stall or home country. I need you to wake up. Just last week, Baltimore County Police Department picked up a Chilean gang who targeted and burgled luxury housing they found via Zillow. Here in Harford County, we have the unsolved Morin murder. And I'll say her name, it's Rachel Morin. Just recently, another murder on a trail in Baltimore County. Is this a coincidence? Now we have this assault in broad daylight on one of our elderly citizens. What do you think will happen once all the high-density, affordable housing gets put in, like Governor Moore is pushing for? I'm wagering higher crime. Will you stand up for the safety of our citizens over dollar signs? Will you stand between what is good and right and what is bad for the Harford County citizenry? Lack of backbones or tied hands excuses are not needed now. Also, don't tell me that crime isn't Bel Air's jurisdiction. Hogwash, I say. There must be a concerted, combined effort along with the citizenry, to protect and defend our lives here. Are you with me? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The last speaker is Brianna Coleman.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brianna Coleman, 2347 Ingle Road in Fallston. Good evening, everyone. I've heard the term work group used a lot lately in this room, and I am included in the current impact fee work group, and I'm here tonight to talk about impact fees. Since I'm still early in my political journey, I am also learning there is a long process before progress, unlike that Girl Scout that got 54 buttons in 4 years. My understanding is the next steps in the process are to hire an outside contractor to analyze and make recommendations on what our impact fees should look like. Then we're going to take those recommendations and put them into the form of legislation, and then that legislation will then come before you for a vote. I, along with others, have done a lot of research on impact fees, and personally, I would like to see Harford County follow Anne Arundel's model, which is by square foot. And the fees are divided between roads, schools, and public safety. But the reason I'm here tonight isn't to share my opinion on adjusting our impact fees, but it's to hear yours. I would like to respectfully ask each of you to share if you support adjusting our impact fee schedule, which could mean raising them, during your closing comments or perhaps in an email, because at the end of the day, your vote is going to be the one that puts our county in a better position than it was when you started. And since I have a little extra time, I'd like to update you on our school APFO. The town of Bel Air has recently voted unanimously to remove abutting school districts from their APFO, which is a step in the right direction. I am dedicated to continuing the conversations to get that APO bill for 100% out of Mr. Vincenti's desk drawer. It's not a matter of pausing development, it's a matter of prioritizing the needs of the community in the right order, issuing permits at the right time, and having policies in place that set up all stakeholders for success. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, ma'am.
There are no other speakers.
We'll move into agenda number 16, business from council members. Mr. Guthrie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just on that 24-001 bill, I just want to let you know the reason, my reason for not supporting it at the time is not that I don't support it. It was that the fact that the state is working on the same language that they are supposed to come out with in June. So it didn't make any sense for us to pass a bill that if the state came out with different language, then we would have to go back and change our bill. So it was basically shelved for that reason. And by the way, I support 100% APFO. Last Wednesday, March 13th, I was at the Route 40 Business Association luncheon at Riverwatch, and the guest speaker was Alex Jacobs. Alex Jacobs is the owner of Copper Mine, the sports fields that are down in Edgewood, and he owns probably another 10 or 12 across the state. He gave us a speech, and he talked about his last weekend they had what they call the soft opening. Their big opening is coming in another couple of weeks. But what he reminded us, and Mr. Penn was there, and so was President Pat. They talked about, and of course we talked about this, I talked about this 8 or 9 months ago. I said I didn't think we had enough hotels in this county, and that according to this Mr. Jacobs, he estimated that when they get going full bore there, that they're expecting 12,000 people a weekend from Thursday to Friday during for a good 8 or 9 months of the year. Well, this soft opening last weekend, they had 3,000 people come, and they were short parking places, so he needs to figure out how to deal with that. And not only is it short parking places, they were 500 rooms short that weekend for 3,000 people. They were and the guys can vouch for this because they heard Mr. Jacobs talk about this. And a lot of people had to go to Baltimore County and Baltimore City for places to stay. So I cannot imagine what's going to happen if this thing gets going full bore, and he predicts 12,000 people a weekend, and that happens. I don't know what we are ever going to do with all those people. Also, all you people out there who've got children or grandchildren and all, I bought some booklets that they passed out from Coppermine. If you got kids or anybody else who's interested in sports, I'm going to put this up there, help yourself. You'll be amazed at there isn't a sport that they don't touch. Horses, goats, you name it, it's amazing. So help yourself to those booklets. Also, that evening, myself and Councilman Bennett attended, I'm sure he's going to have some comments about this too, at the Cultural Center Opera House in Havre de Grace. We attended the foundation of Harford TV Foundation presenting Facing Addictions in Harford County. I think it's something that we can't turn our back on. We got to watch out what's happening with our kids and grandkids with these drugs. It's getting a little worse. Don Bennett, who's a very good friend of mine, Don Mathis, who's a very good friend of mine, he put on this outstanding presentation, and he has great concerns over about 3 drugs that citizens and youth can buy right over the counter, don't need any prescriptions, and they are drugs that the kids are using. So I was trying to get the name of those 3 drugs before this meeting, but I wasn't able to get a hold of it. And I don't want to give out the wrong information, but there's about 3 drugs, and I'll try to have them by the next time. Also attended on the 15th at Laura Dendrum, the St. Patrick's Day for Belair, so I came up to celebrate with Belair on there. And then Tony finally showed up. He showed up late, but it was his event, it was his event in his town. But it was a great event, and the food was outstanding. Also, I want to thank Harford County Public Library for congratulating me on what my colleagues here presented me with the Harford Living Treasure. I see from a letter I just got from them that they're going to interview me and take a video, and they're going to store it in the library for forever. And Tony already told me, he says, they don't have enough tape for you. So. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Mr. Penman.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending the Harford County High School robotics experience for some of our aspiring engineers and innovators. It was exciting to witness firsthand the talent, dedication, and remarkable achievements of each of the students with their engineer robots as they competed against each other. Participating in the program were students from Havre de Grace Robotics Club, C. Milton Wright, and Joppatown High School. It was also impressive to learn that Havre de Grace Robotics Club qualified for the Robotics State Championship. I want to thank the NSTEP program also for their incredible partnership with the Harford County Public Schools and for their support and dedication to fostering the growth of the robotics clubs throughout our county. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Mr. Jandrodeno.
Thank you, Council President. So attended the first Patriot celebration this year. It's something pretty neat, pretty fun to watch all these young kids, the kindergartners, first grade and second grade, come through there, and how many participate in the program. And I really enjoy that they sing these different songs. So it certainly is definitely a great experience. Bel Air had 277 Patriots total. 37 of them were from the 5th grade, and I think they have a total of like 500 and something kids, so almost half of the school was able to participate in the Patriots program, so kudos to them. And then I did grand opening for my very good friend Randy Pack at Chesapeake Capital Management, moved to Water's Edge. And it's got some great views over there up on the, I guess, 3rd or 4th floor. And myself and Council President Vincenti and Councilman Riley were there. So congratulations to him. And that's all I have. Thank you, Council President.
Yes, thank you. Councilman Riley is on his way to Annapolis as we speak. Councilwoman Sottles is still under the weather. And also, as you can see, Ms. Dixon is not with us this evening either. Hopefully, they will both be back by the next council meeting. Mr. Bennett.
I will be claiming their time. I wanted to share, I did attend the Facing Addiction in Harford County event. What Councilman Guthrie was referring to that Mr. Mathis shared during the presentation, which the presentation will air on Harford TV in April, and I encourage everybody to watch it. But it is a drug colloquially referred to as gas station heroin. The most common brand you'll find for it is called Zaza. And they brought to the presentation purchases of it that they had made at local vape shops in Harford County to show how easily you can pick this up. And it's worse for you than heroin and more addictive than heroin. So it's something to just keep an eye out and to know that it exists. And hopefully, at some level, legislate away because it's something that is, you know, if you have a debit card and can get to a vape shop, you can get your hands on it, and it's very dangerous for your health and for your well-being. So hopefully that's something that is addressed. But it was an informative event, and we left on the theme of hope, of knowing that the drug crisis that we face is one that is solvable. And so it was a really great presentation, and I can't stress enough, I encourage people to watch it. I also attended last week the Abingdon, Bell Camp, Perryman CAB meeting, which was I really encourage everybody to go to their local CAB meeting. They're really powerful experiences where you get to face government entities and people who can help you and have unlimited time to talk openly about things going on and what you'd like to see changed. I really personally enjoy attending the CAB meeting every month. Also at the Opera House, I was able to attend Still I Rise, Women's Voices in American Poetry, which was a wonderful, wonderful presentation for both Women's History Month and Poetry Month. And so many powerful women from our community, cornerstones of our community, participated in that. And Christopher Providence did an incredible job directing the program, so that was a lot of fun. Coming up, the Churchville-Creswell Fountain Green CAB meeting is Thursday at 6:30 at the Churchville Rec Center, so I encourage people who live in those communities to come on out. I represent a tiny portion of that with Creswell, so I'll be doing my best to make sure myself or my legislative aide are there. And then the Abingdon Wood Coalition is having a meeting on March 26th at 6:30 p.m. at the Anita Light Estuary Center. I just wanted to real quick touch upon two recent losses in our community, two long-standing first responders, both Mr. David Starr and Mr. Chris Stone, who we lost, and just make sure that their commitment to our community, between the two of them, over 70 years of volunteer service, doesn't go unrecognized or unthanked for. Just thinking of those who were close with them and their families during this time. And because it was asked, it wasn't in my notes, but APFO, I think it's important that we look at, and we're all looking at it. I've been doing a lot of research on what other counties do, like personal preference. I really like how some counties tier their APFO percentage so that there's a stricter percentage for elementary schools than secondary schools. Because elementary schools have a smaller community footprint, so it's easier to be stricter on them versus your middle schools, high schools that serve a much larger footprint. But then with impact fees, I think everybody would be in agreement that they do need to be addressed. The best way to address them would be with a time machine, because we've done a lot of building, and we're running out of building to gather impact fees from. But it's the sooner the better, and so I'm glad that work group is happening. So that's everything for me. And we're back from Annapolis.
Jesus.
Hey.
Can't track go down without his license.
Now you see what I deal with every day.
Halfway there, and he had to come back.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. So 15 business from the president. Let me get this other stuff out of the way, or Mr. Kearney will have a fit. Want to advertise the fiscal year 25 council budget work sessions again. Monday, April 22nd, Tuesday, April 23rd, Monday, April 29th, Tuesday, April 30th in these chambers. A copy of the schedule will be on our website. Audio live stream will be available during the 4 days of meetings. Audio of the meeting will be archived on the council website. And then also our budget public hearings are scheduled for Wednesday, May 8th, 7:30 PM, and Monday, May 13th, 7:30 PM in these chambers. Video and audio will be live streamed and archived on the county website. I too believe that it's been a tremendous amount of time since we looked at impact fees. Ms. Coleman, you're right, we're meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Last time the fees were looked at was in 2004. They are using not a contractor, but a consultant, Tischler Buys. We will meet with them, and also as a part of that, we are going to talk about APFO number. So it's something that you just can't grab out of the air. You can't put 5 or 6 people together to pull these numbers out. You need somebody with the experience and the knowledge to bring this report together for a multitude of reasons. And then, again, Mr. Bennett spoke about Mr. Starr. It's very unfortunate. It was very sad to hear the news this weekend, and Jeannie and I wish to express our deepest condolences to Mr. Starr's family and friends, the Susquehanna Hose Company, all of the volunteers, fire and EMS volunteers across this county, because for years he was a member of Susquehanna Hose at House 2 on Union Avenue and worked close with many people across this county. I would ask you to keep Dave in your thoughts and prayers. He was a guy that not only loved the community of Havre de Grace, but the waterfront, the outdoors. So again, I would just ask you to keep all of his friends and families in your thoughts and prayers, the members of all of our fire and EMS companies throughout the county. And with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.